first, I would like to share that the founder and co-founder for the Silverblade Foods brand as Ocean Express, Ocean Surprise. So, Mr. Debabrata Rai, who is the founder of this company, he brings in more than 16 years of experience in service and operations for a leading hotel conglomerates, HNI clients. He also managed brand and marketing from million-dollar sports engagement in India. He completed his hotel and hospitality administration studies from Edinburgh Napier University, Scotland. And interestingly, he holds the distinction of being the Chief Hospitality Protocol Officer for His Excellency former President Dr. Pranab Mukherjee and His Excellency Sri Keshari Nath Tripathi, Honorable Ex-Governor of West Bengal of India. The co-founder, Shubhabrata Roy, his brother, equally talented, a management consultant, 6+ years of experience in strategy and transaction advisory. He has worked with Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Currently, he is with the government of Andhra Pradesh, and very interestingly, he also helped for the Family Wealth Management Office for our captain, Indian cricket team captain MS Dhoni. He also involved in fundraising 8 million in Series A for a media and entertainment firm. We have closed 3 deals also in sports and lifestyle grounding, and 5 PPP projects with central and state government with capex exceeding 10,000 crore. He holds a master's in public policy and administration from London School of Economics and Political Science. So that is his background. And today, we this is the pre-money valuation round. We would like to close this round by 20th of this month. And without further ado, I would like to uh, request the founder and co-founder to start with their pitch deck, and so we can go ahead with the program. So over to you, Mr. Devrota.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So myself is Devabrata Ray. So as Ritik said most of the things about me. So we thought about like this concept of providing sustainable food and beverage, like mostly into the seafood sector, seafood, meat and staples. So it was our, you can call it like it is our unique thought that we will be providing seafood to every household in India at a affordable price. So if I say affordable price, it will be basically like where people like regular fish, chicken, mutton, it will be such affordable that they can have it not once a week, but couple of days a week. So taking this thought forward, me and my brother Shubhabrata, we did a groundwork and homework since 2018, and we visited various places along the east and west coastline, because India has been blessed with a long peninsula where we get a lot of seafoods, and there are a lot of pristine coast also where the seafoods are being caught. So like we visited starting from West Bengal, as because we belong from West Bengal. So starting from West Bengal till Kerala, Maharashtra, we have visited most of the places, and then we found out what exactly how we can take the things forward. And like it will be basically, we wanted, as we said, that we wanted to be the most trusted direct to consumer like brand in seafood, meat and fish. So basically when we say direct to customer, that will be no middleman involved, no what do you call like this wastage of this thing. Like when you come down to the middleman part, there are a lot of pilferage and wastage happens. So the yield of that production goes down by 20-25%. So how we will be approaching is we will be directly approaching to the fisherman. We will be directly approaching to the person who owns a trawler. We will like we have already started. We already started this exercise. So we are procuring from them, and at the back end we are cleaning, processing it, and giving it back to the client. So if I say client, it will be either a direct customer who is coming down to the retail store or ordering online, or the hospitality partner. So we are not going to sell our product to any of the middleman or reseller, because we want to break this chain of this unsustainable price point. So we want to make it a very sustainable price point once we cut off, because then again, like when you are selling it to a reseller, we become a middleman. Again, that the thought process which we are planning right now will not be successful, or it will not go the way we want it. So again, like this is our model, and this is our company's thought process, and this is the way we will be like taking the things forward together. And there will be like this sustainability, health and hygiene, as we always say, and this is the belief we, as a Silverblade Foods and the custodian of Ocean Surprise, we believe that one, the sustainability, health and hygiene, it is a right of the customer. It's not a privilege. So if something is not available, we as a giver to the society, we have to find out a sustainable source. We cannot say, okay, fine, it is not available. Supply and demand, it has to be maintained. We are the one who will be delivering it. So this is the way we want to carry forward. We will not be like, we have to plan it like proactive way, so that our demand and supply meets on an equal path. So it should not be like demand is high, supply is not there, we will increase the price and sell it. This will not be our motto. Our motto will always be demand and supply will be parallel, whatever. So because of that, we have to like get the source aligned or streamlined. This is the way we want to take the things forward in a right direction. So as per our mission and vision values, as you can all see, so it is basically, we want to reach all the household, as I said earlier, like health, hygiene and sustainably sourced material. If I say sustainably sourced material, that means the fishermen are also earning, we are also earning, customer is also earning. How customer is also earning? Customer is not paying through the noses. They are paying what exactly is the price. For example, like if you see this unorganized market, like as because we are located in Vijayawada right now, so we have seen this unorganized market. For example, a pomfret, the price point where the pomfret is being sold is in between 750 to 1800 rupees a kg. For lobster, it is being sold in between to like 1400 rupees to 1800 rupees a kg. So this is basically a very unsustainable price bracket. So like when the season is not there, it goes up to 1800, 1900, 2000 rupees a kg. Why? Again, like there is one single fish which everybody knows, which is known as the queen of fish, pulasa. Like they call it pulasa in their Telugu language, but the actual name is hilsa. So the price point, if you ever have been to Vijayawada or in Andhra Pradesh during this cultivation time of hilsa, the price is like abnormally high. Abnormally high, if I say abnormally high, that is, it comes in a 5-digit figure, starting from 10,000, 11,000 rupees and goes up till 21,000 rupees a kg, which is like, we have like seen this one in our, like we have witnessed this one, that people are selling it at 14,000, 15,000 rupees a kg. Either you take it or leave it. So now, like when we say all these things, then like this irrational price point, and then the high percentage of wastage. Again, I told you that one beforehand, that high percentage of wastage is basically like if they cannot sell it, they throw it back in the water. So there is no point that they can store that product. If there are ways you can store that product in a very rationalized way, in a very sustainable way. That is a process which is known as blasting. So again, we researched about it. What is the difference between adding a formalin and freezing a product or a blasting a product? So basically, I will just take 2 minutes time. I will just make the differentiation between that two. Blasting basically is a very systematic and scientific process of storing a product or a seafood and increasing their shelf life by like 3-4 folds. If I say 3-4 folds, for example, like for a fish, when it is being caught, what happens is that in the trawler they are being kept. The fish dies naturally, and then within an hour's time, the rigor mortis of that fish starts. So when we say rigor mortis, it will release water. Any organism which dies, it will release water from the body. Now, when they come back to the shore after 7, 8, 10, 15 hours, what happens is that they start storing that fish. What happens when you store that fish? The water is already present inside the body and you are freezing that water. So when you are freezing a body or a dead organism with water, what happens? It can be fresh for couple of hours or couple of days maximum, and then it starts rotting. Again, that is a high percentage of wastage. When it gets rots, they throw it back. Now, I come to the process of blasting. Blasting is a very systematic and very scientific process where a live fish is being caught, they are being cleaned live, like with the water, whatever the mud or anything unwanted thing is there in their body or gills, this is being cleared, and then they are kept in a temperature of -50 degrees with a dry ice blasting. So what happens is that fish, live fish, is dying. We are forcing it to die inside a controlled, temperature controlled chamber, and the fun is there is no water inside that organism. That is only the blood and their the body parts which is getting frozen. So when you cut a frozen fish, you will find it is white. But when you cut a blasted fish, when you thaw it, when you put it in a water for normalizing it, because after blasting it becomes rock solid. Like you can keep that one in open for 7-8 hours, nothing will happen once the blasting is done. So once you keep that product in water and in a normal, when it comes back to the normal temperature, the moment you cut it, the blood will start oozing out. And that retains the freshness of that fish. Like if you see that whatever product which is being exported in any of the foreign countries, in UK, US, whosoever is staying there, they get rohu, katla, or a lot of Indian fishes. They are all blasted. And this increases the shelf life of that product by 3 folds. Like, as I said, like almost like a product which was supposed to be used by a week's time, you can use that product after a month, 2 months, or 3 months. And the shelf life of that product increased by years, like 24 months to 36 months, the shelf life of that product get increased because you have blasted that product. Again, then the predictive analysis enables supply chain. This is something very unique. Not much of in this segment is focusing on this thing. If we do a predictive analysis, like 12 months in a year will not be the same, right? So there will be ups and downs. So when we say predictive analysis, there will be an app. We are developing an app. So we are on the initial stage of finalizing how it will be working. So we are working with the big data as well. So what happens is that, for example, Andhra Pradesh, so it will analyze what are the timelines where the production, the consumption is high, and when are the times when the consumption is low. So depending on that same, what we will be doing is we will be procuring our material. It should not be like, we also should not be wasting that product, or the percentage of wastage should not be high, like not more than 5 to 7%, what we are thinking right now. And then we can rationalize the pricing of that product. Like when the product is available, then you should not be hiking that price by certain percentage. And then what happens is like that, again, that balance between the supply and demand get disrupted. Then optimizing a hub and spoke distribution model. Yes, we will have our hub where we will be supplying to all our spokes, that is our unit or the stores. So basically we are planning to have the hubs on the coastal side. Like normally people like try to open it out in metros or something like that. But that is again an unsustainable, because carrying it out from the source to the hub, it should not be more than 1 hour. The timeline should not be more than 1 hour, maximum 1 hour 30 minutes. It should not be crossing that 1 hour 30-minute mark. So it should be nearer to your procurement center, so that you can actually store that product in a very good condition, and the shelf life will be like increased, and there will be minimal wastage. So I would pass it on to Shubhabrata, who will be taking it from here with the figures and the numbers. So over to you, Shubha. Thank you.
Shubhabrata, I think you are on mute. Please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are. You are.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Shubhabrata. I am one of the co-founders and brand custodian for Ocean Surprise. So basically, thanks to everyone for joining this call and taking out the time from the schedule. And thanks to Dave for making a pretty exhaustive technical presentation on the business model. So basically, just as a precursor to enter into the numbers and how we have been doing over the last 8 months, I would summarize what Dave has said into two broad boxes for a very easy layman's understanding. On one hand, we are a D2C seafood, fish, meat and meat products company. All right. On the second side, we are intending to use the technology both in terms of the supply chain, also in terms of the business analytics, and how that will help us in achieving our goal that we want to become India's most trusted in terms of affordability, sustainability, and obviously in terms of quality. So basically, as Dave has mentioned, the entire supply chain to you, right from the ocean till it goes to the consumer's plate, there is one big part which will be the use of artificial intelligence at the back end 24/7, right from the time a fish is taken from the ocean, or a goat is dressed inside a goatery farm, or a chicken is dressed inside a poultry farm. How we are intending to use the technology is, so there will be one end of an app which will be having a interface towards the producer, who is basically the aquaculture farmer or a poultry farmer or a goatery owner. Now they will constantly have a monitoring system through that app, where I as a owner will be able to oversee that the location based analysis of that caught or the product, what is the temperature at when it was taken from the sea, and at what point of time it is being transported to my central warehouse, where I'm currently doing the blast freezing process, what Dave has mentioned. Now there are twofold advantages to this particular technology or the usage of this technology. One is, obviously, as we are claiming from the top of the roof that we are a sustainable brand. Now how we prove to the whole world that we are sustainable? Because ultimately we are taking the products from the marine ecosystem. So basically, fish, every kind of marine fish which we consume, we humans consume, have got a separate breeding season, a different breeding period. All right. So basically, currently, at this moment when we are having this conversation, this is the prime breeding time of the marine fish, basically the saltwater and the freshwater fish which we are consuming. The reason is, when the pre-monsoon arrives and the fish from the high sea enters the junction, the river, the junction of the river and the ocean, 90% of the trawlers in the eastern coast, which is a 1,000-kilometer long coastline alone in the state of Andhra Pradesh, then adding up to West Bengal, Odisha, the stretch of Tamil Nadu, 90% of the catch happens during this period, and that, in my opinion, is tremendously unsustainable. It may give a lot of variety and production, but it is tremendously unsustainable. Why? Because we are catching the fish from the marine ecosystem, which is actually entering the Bay of Bengal to mate, to breed. So we are basically eating out the breeding species, and for the next breeding season, we are actually leaving out with 10 to 15% of the overall breeding mature fish. So, in my opinion, a predictive analytics will help us in staying away from the ocean and to discourage these indiscriminate fishing practices. And similarly, when I am working with a large chain of aquaculture farmers who venture out into the sea, so since they will be deriving the demand from my side, I, as the controller of demand and supply, sitting in the node between the consumer and the source, I will be able to control it, and control it with the data that yes, this is the period when the breeding should happen, so we should not venture out, we should stay away for 2-3 weeks, let the nature do its game, and then when the fish breeds and goes back to the high sea, that is the time when they should be caught. I'm not saying that those fish cannot be consumed, supposedly to be consumed, but they have to be consumed once they are completed with their breeding process. Then the next batch of fish for the next breeding season, and to sustain the entire 1 year of ecosystem life supporting the food chain, is available with us. So this is how we want to achieve, this is the sustainability we want to achieve. And the advantage of this is, since I will be in a position to understand the stock inventory, I will be able to deliver this to the consumer at the doorstep at a very, very affordable price. And when I say affordability, my index and my understanding of affordability is the price point at which it is available in the local mandi or the local fish market where we go, basically the wet shops. In the wet shop, the advantage of price and quality is unmatched. As a branded business, I will accept it hands down, that unmatched quality because of the live slaughter of the fish that happens, and the price, because obviously their overheads are low. Now we, as a generational market disruptor, we want to break this chain by introducing this D2C concept, making the logistics and supply chain our own asset. There we have to there we can actually derive the cost benefit, which will pass it on to the consumers. So summarizing whatever we have spoken so now, this is what exactly summarizes. So between the source procurement and the endpoint delivery, it is only the temperature control storage with 2 dedicated supply chain process where we'll be leveraging the maximum benefit. And this will obviously help us make us a brand with good food in our heart and consumer delight in our brain. So we are following a very simple D2C formula. So we ask 3 questions to ourselves before we cater to any of the order. Are our source sustainable and fresh? Is the price a reason for delight of our patrons? And our service and care are warm and cozy? We are in a service-oriented model. So these are the 3 pillars of the business which we follow before making any approach to the consumer. So this is our flagship brand, Ocean Surprise. The store was inaugurated in the month of October in the city of Vijayawada. The reason we have chosen Vijayawada, because we were physically there in this city for the last 3 years now. We have understood the demographics, the demand of the market. We are pretty aware of the customer sentiment and the dynamics, and the consumption proportion is also very high when compared to other tier 2 South Indian cities. And obviously we chose this particular region because compared to Hyderabad and Bangalore, where it would have required an initial infusion of higher capital, we saved on a lot of inaugurating capital costs. So this is basically our roadmap for the entire brand, that we are right now in the AI enabled sourcing application stage. We poised to become the market leader. Obviously, we would like to acquire a couple of businesses which are on the smaller scale, who are having scalability issues. And obviously, we foresee a global footprint expansion possibility, and subsequently leading us to to the stock exchange for listing us as in the IPO rounds. So there we see the entire roadmap of the entire product as well as the company. To the esteemed member of the investment panel, whoever is present on the call today. So this is our utilization plan. This is what we intend to do with your money. we want to develop and rather strengthen the AI enabled sourcing which we have already created. We are currently using a software called Align Book, which is a very basic software. Obviously we had certain cost constraints, so we kept our ambitions to a certain limit up to which we can deliver. Obviously we will be increasing our infrastructure capacity in terms of cold storage, and we will be doing a predictive analytics based delivery app which will be always have a real time interaction with the consumer as well as my supply chain points. We would like to set our footprint in the company owned, company operated, as abbreviated as COCO models, retail store development. We are really not willing to explore the franchisee options at this point of time because quality is our biggest concern, and till we find a partner who is really aligning to our thoughts and the vision that we have set, we have kept the franchisee option beside, and we are more interested in giving out company owned stores. And obviously we will be needing smart human capital, and we believe without this we will not be able to scale up and penetrate the market. So obviously we will be requiring a large chunk of money to be kept aside for the store development, also the management of the store through the efficient human resources, and certainly digital marketing and social media. The world has turned electronic, the world has turned digital. People rely more on Facebook based recommendations, Twitter based recommendation. However, one particular caveat that I would like to emphasize as a co-founder, digital marketing, social media, we want to do it organic. We don't want to have we are not thinking of keeping budget for onboarding influencers who will write some good words for us. Rather, we would like our real customers to write some good words for us on regular intervals. In the subsequent slides, I will show you how what our customers have thought about us or felt about us. This is the micro market analysis for India. So the data was taken from the National Sample Survey Organization, NSSO, 2014 data. This is after that they have not conducted any further survey on this, so we had to limit ourselves to the 2014 data. In terms of top 10 consumption cities or the region, Hyderabad, Warangal and Khammam in the Telangana state tops the country with 98.7% of its total consumer opting for non-vegetarians, followed by obviously West Bengal, Kolkata, Durgapur, Siliguri, Asansol having 98.6. I see a small error on the serial number, kindly ignore it. Then we see Vijayawada, Guntur, Vizag and Nellore at 98.25. Then coming down to Raipur and Chhattisgarh, and there is a reason we have kept Raipur and Raipur in the state of Chhattisgarh at the last, in spite of having 82.05% of its total population opting for non-vegetarian because of the density. So Raipur as a market from a startup's perspective is a naive market to penetrate. So that is where we would like to keep Raipur probably on the later part of our expansion plan. However, we believe the top region, as we have circled out, I will be taking you to the subsequent slide where it will be more clear to you. So this is where the hub and spoke model and the major focus of our business will be. So the yellow large circles that you see, these are basically origin based. That stands for the hub where there is an origin of seafood production, and the blue ones are where it will be distribution based. So basically the blue ones will be in simple language will be dependent on the yellow ones for their stock and inventory. So infrastructure wise, a hub will be something around 7,000 square feet, maintaining a steady -18 to -24-degree blasting freezing facility, and they will be having conveyor layouts for cutting, cleaning and packaging. Compared to that, a retail spoke will be a 500 square feet floor area, which will be in the prime areas of the the cities. So obviously expensive real estate. So we have tried to keep the service area, the floor areas really smaller, where that will be optimum for the purpose of serving the consumers. So again, having a -18-degree frozen storage facility, and obviously the POS and sale and payments point. So we'll be doing only the sales from the spokes. The hub will be basically the feeders. So this is basically a cost estimation we have worked out by talking to the people in this ecosystem. We have taken quotes on paper. we will able to produce on request the costing estimations, the official costing estimations that we have arrived into, and we'll be sharing these numbers with you. So I'll be quickly moving to the next one. So this is basically the technology integration, where I believe obviously the physical infrastructure of storage and preservation is very much required. That is where the ballpark that is the ballpark estimation of 5 lakh rupees for the app development, which will be completely backed by a data source that we are currently maintaining into our MIS, and obviously we'll be escalating it to a higher level as and when required. We are currently in talks with 2 of the largest such players in the country. One of them, I would like to take the name. It's called Mylin Foundry. It is founded by the ex-Chief Technology Officer of Tata Sons, Dr. Gopi Chand Katragadda. I share a very good rapport and relation with him, and that's where I am deriving this inspiration of this particular technology end of the business from their side. This is the number that they have provided us, and the kind of features. We'll also share these details with you in subsequent stages as on requested. Now I'll be actually talking about the numbers. So we have given a kind of I will say a heads up on the things that we are doing, but how it is converting into sales and how much we are actually being able to achieve is what it is presented in front of you. So if you can see, the numbers have escalated over a period of last 8 months. February, March has been our bumper months. Obviously the month of April and May has taken the May was good, but April was good. May has taken a bit of a dip because of the exigencies in the business post the second wave was committed and commenced, and then the government decided to allow us to operate only 6 hours in the day, and that too in the first 6 hours, which is morning 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. So by 12 a.m. I have to shut my shop and then leave the premise. So basically the last order that I could possibly take in the current delivery scheme model is at around 11:10, 11:20. So obviously I could operate only 5 hours, and still we could actually maintain the balance that we at the momentum that we actually did in the month of January. So this is our current operating profitability. The first 4 months we had to face the challenges of the initiation of business. Although there was I will say competition was less, the reason we could not make it EBITDA positive that way was because of our initial costs that were pumped in, and we also had to find our feet. So I believe that cost kind of got exhausted in finding the way out. But now we are making healthy top line per day. We are breaking even per day almost on a daily basis, and obviously I believe with the kind of investment support and the intellectual support that will come from the the members, I believe we will be having a gala run in the coming time. This is what we have done in the city of Vijayawada alone, and this number that you can see is achieved within a 7 square kilometer, 10 square kilometer area from where we are based. So Vijayawada is basically a very small city. A population of around I say around 10 lakh people, and then this is what my traffic order funnel looks like. So it consists, you can see there is a consistent organic growth in terms of my customer numbers. I'm doing almost close to, we have touched almost close to the magic figure of 200. The reason I'm saying it magic figure because all the current market app-based players, the ones like the Licious and the Grofers of the world. So specifically those who are doing exclusively meat, seafood, and fish, they consider 200 as a magic figure. So basically, given by that. However, we don't want to restrict ourselves to that particular definition of magic figure of 200. I believe we can scale it up to 500 a month. Basically, once the market opens up and then there is a buyer sentiment that kicks in. We have achieved a customer acquisition cost of INR 54 rupees. Currently in the market, this will be something close to 700 to 800 rupees, which is followed by companies like Licious, Meetigo, Fresh to Home. They are spending almost 700 to 800 rupees per customer to acquire and to maintain that. Compared to that, we are much less. Actually, we have almost spent nothing when compared to those. The reason we have not spent we have not spent any big amount, because we believe that if we maintain quality, our customers will come back to us, rather than pushing a lot of marketing ads and bombarding on social media, then paying influencers to write some good words about it. We want our customers to be the flag bearer of our reputation. So you can see we have spent only 4,000 rupees in the last 8 months in marketing, in social media, and then obviously we have currently the numbers are quite visible in front of you. We are scaling up. We are achieving there. We are just being there. Obviously, I believe there is a tremendous area that lies in terms of retaining the customers through introduction of loyalty programs, which obviously we will subsequently introduce. But currently our order value is very impressive, I believe so. It's almost more than 2,000 rupees per order. So this is our current numbers. This is what our customers talks about us in the social media. We have received consistently good feedback. We have received few complaints which we have tried to address in the best possible manner. The complaints mostly relates to, I will say, the delivery timings, because we are stressed with one single delivery boy in the city of Vijayawada, and then he has to deliver almost like 10-15 orders a day. And then with 5 hours of time still, I mean, it includes the opening and closing of the business hours and the accounts. So the delivery boy had to really face some lot of challenges based in terms of the mobility and the locational issues. So we never had a quality complaint. No customer ever complained to us that the product was substandard or the product didn't match the expectation that the price paid for. We always have received a good thing. I don't know, one thing I would always like to mention, because as a founder I always felt this is nice. We got an order from the office of the chief minister, from the residence of the chief minister. So the OSD advisor to the CM made the order. You can see this for the very first comment which it was given. So basically, and what we could retrieve the feedback from the officer on special duty to the CM, that he liked the product, and he mentioned that he would like to order quite often. Just for the purpose, we see every customer in the same line of sight. Just wanted to bring it to your notice. This is the team. I would like to introduce the advisor who is bringing the gray hair. Mr. Vishwaranjan Rai happens to be our father, and despite his experience as an official from the Department of Posts, he has helped us understanding how logistics works in this country. And he has helped us crack the deal with the Indian Railways in terms of the consignment rates from Howrah to Vijayawada. And he is also helping from his network penetrate couple of government contracts and stuff. And obviously his wisdom of buying fish, going to the fish market, seeing the gills, how a Bengali would always do, negotiate on the price like a great negotiator. He basically made us understand the ground realities of how things would turn out, and not look as hunky-dory as it would seem from an apparent understanding of things. And we have tried to toe his advice, and we found quite a good I will say return while sticking to his advice. Then we have two brothers, myself and my elder brother Devabrata. So we basically conceptualized this idea, as he said. We were always very entrepreneurial in nature, and we tried to do a lot of independent advisory when we were working. We raised sponsorships for IPL in the food and beverage hospitality segment. I was working in the I dabbled a few amount of time in media and entertainment. So we tried to close couple of family office deals. And then mostly I am a government consultant, so not much to talk about. I mostly help the government in grounding large scale infrastructure projects, which again actually helps in a good logistics and supply chain, because I mostly look after the urban infrastructure. So basically highways and railway projects, and such kind of stuff in PPPs. We also have our better halves who have joined us in the firm. So basically Tania, she has become the first contributor of the capital, to the extent it gives us a lot of pride and privilege to say that she was so much into the idea, and she has so much of trust and faith installed in this idea that could fly, that she has agreed to mortgage her wedding jewels to the bank to raise the first patch of capital. So yes, in terms of support, and we believed the females who managed businesses before, and based on that virtue, they bring in a lot of insight which we generally tend to overlook in terms of managing the day-to-day expenses of the business, in terms of the operational excellence. Talking to a consumer makes a lot of difference. Then we have Devashmita, who holds a bachelor's in commerce from the University of Calcutta. She worked with IBM Concentrix. She also manages the company's internal finance and investments, and currently doing all the fiscal due diligence that we should be doing as a startup. And we are really keeping every corner out where we can cut costs and add value to the final delivery of the product to the consumers. I just prepared a couple of info deck slides in terms of understanding of the market. So this is the overall market that looks like. In 2015, it was 245,000 crore. In 2019, it was 330,000 crores overall market size. That the projection currently is a little on the pessimistic side, given we are not very sure how the COVID will turn around. But still, we believed a very pessimistic 6.5% CAGR, taking the market size into 460,000 crores over the next 4 years time. Roughly translating, if I take in US dollars, it will be like around in between 50 to 55, 60 billion US dollars. And fish obviously constitutes the major chunk of the entire product portfolio, followed by poultry, then mutton, pork, and beef. This is the competition landscape that looks like. So we are right now operating in this small 2% pie of the entire market. And out of that market, 80%, as I have told you, given the names, Licious, Tendercut, Zapfresh, Mitigo, Meetza. However, Mitigo and Meetza has got a little different business model. They are right now into the the business of delivering packaged stuff, and they are doing it absolutely online through the packaged processed packaged food, which is almost into ready to eat and ready to cook segments. However, Tendercuts, Licious, Good to Go is a small company, inspirational company, which is there in Gurgaon. However, in terms of the closest competition, in terms of a line of thought of technology and ideation, I will say Fresh to Home, founded by Shan Kadavil and his friends. They are closest to us in terms of the competition, or rather we are closest to them in terms of the emerging competition, and we aspire to overtake the brand in the next 4 years time, if we get your support, and obviously in both in terms of capital and ideas and market penetration. There is a small hyper local segment of this entire market of this 2%, which is controlled by Big Basket, Grofers, and Spencers. But again, they are basically hyper local retail. So eventually, probably Big Basket will be buying from us, and then delivering it to the consumer. So they are basically in the delivery model of the supply chain model of it, and we present ourselves as a brand out of it. And then this is the vast uncharted 98% territory which is up for grab. So I believe this is my also a humble presentation to the esteemed investment panel today, that rather than seeing just the 2% of the current opportunity which has been carved, we rather get to see the 98% of the unorganized red shops which is there up for grab as well. So this 2% can roughly translate to a big market. However, if we are planning to scale it up to a aspirational level of $60 billion, I think we have to step out of our comfort zone and look into the 98% unorganized market. That's how Uber and Ola did it when India was actually ruled by the Kala Pila, and there's the taxis and the auto segment in the Indian transport industry. That's how I believe the evolution of the fish, meat, and seafood segment in India also will take place. This is our pre-money valuation. Currently, if we talk about the unit economics at the store level, we will be we'll be having a rough valuation of around 30 lakhs. However, I believe not as an excuse but as a rationale, we had restricted hours of retail operations. The supply chain was disrupted back to back 2 cyclones on the eastern coast, one in the year 2020, the Amphan, and this time Tuktai. So basically Yash, and this has kind of I will say, disrupted the existing business. The small time fishermen with whom we had worked, they had a very tough time arranging all the things back into place, and constantly give us the quality that we were looking for. And we have made a projection that currently with the market expectations that we'd like to go, obviously, in phases. We have every opportunity to operate 10 stores in a given frame of time in the next 1 year. However, we wanted to narrow down and capture, like Alexander the Great did for when he captured the entire northern half of the globe. So he went step by step, and then gradually the half of the world was under his feet. So we believe it is a nice strategy to follow. So we have kept Vijayawada, our current existing footprint, and then adding 3 to it: Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Mumbai. Because having studied the market demographics and the opportunity that this market would create, we have kept a very lean, thin, pessimistic assessment, very conservative number that we have given. We can make a 3.45 crore worth of business alone in the next coming 3 years. We are almost down half past the 2021-22. We have only another 2.5 years left. But we can scale it up, obviously, because now that the vaccination drive is in rapid progress. So these factors will also add up in the understanding of the assessment of the numbers. However, as a co-founder, I'm not keeping a very high hope and then coming down crashing on the investors' money. I'm keeping a very conservative assessment. We don't like to burn cash. So, and we always like to focus the organic approach. We strongly believe the market has burned enough amount of cash and valuation, and I believe that is a very expensive resource at this point of time. So we would be probably keeping those money which we save through this disciplined process of doing things at the latter half, when the competition basically accumulates in the top level, and there we can probably lose our parts a little more, and then that where I believe will be the real difference when we reach that competition stage. So this is a basic screenshot of the predictive analytics tool, a very representative image that I wanted to produce. That so basically the marketplace, the weather forecasting, the larger macro data points, and the sales MIS report. So these are my 3 points of data collection, where I will be getting the data. I'll be feeding it to my system, and it will give me the output in terms of my inventory composition, how much it should be, inventory composition in terms of my poultry, my fish, my seafood, of the overall brand, as well as at the store level. And then it will give me the periodic product movement. So how much a product is moving based on the the weather conditions. Let's say it is very much normal in the summer areas of Delhi NCR, or the sultry summer of the Bangalore and Mumbai, that my mutton sales obviously would see a little dip. However, maybe this pre-monsoon, when the market is flooded with fresh fish, the fresh catch from the ocean, the sustainable catch, mind you, what I said before, the people's consumption tendency would be increasing towards the fish. And obviously we will also try to bring in a lot of differential habits in the consumption pattern. We will try to influence this consumption pattern through this particular tool. It will also give me an item wise pricing movement, so that I can keep a healthy, affordable price point. We also be very careful that we are not shooting the consumer's pocket. And obviously it will give the product contribution margin in terms of the overall top line of the company. So these are basically my 3 data points, and that's how the output it will look down to. And we'll move forward. This is a very touchy slide for me personally. I'm a person who always advocated for environmental sustainability. Right now I am doing a debt restructuring for a hydropower company in one of the state in the country, resulting in 10,000 crores. I am very passionate when it comes to making a business impact which actually translates into environment. And here we will be obviously giving the marine ecosystem a stress-free environment where they can do natural breeding. All right. And I'm sure people, when they see this kind of businesses coming up, all the existing businesses who are currently in the practice of indiscriminate fishing, unsustainable fishing, they will get motivated. They will see that companies making profit, and obviously they will have the need to tie up with us. So that is a very clever strategy, I believe, when we go to the market and acquire small unorganized players. And obviously giving a fair economic opportunity to the fisherman community, one of the most I will say hardworking. We have seen it from a very close distance. very hardworking. However, they are not getting the price that they actually deserve. Very similar to the current farmer situation in the country. There are certain large monopoly players who are buying in bulk, and then obviously they don't have much room to negotiate in terms of the pricing. So basically, I will say this entire ecosystem, everyone needs to grow in this entire ecosystem. So I believe this business will create such far-reaching impacts where even a fisherman would get his fair economic share or her fair economic share, and while the entire world, I mean the marine ecosystem, gets benefited. Obviously, consumer benefit is stakeholders wealth maximization is a thumb rule for any business. Consumers being one of the biggest stakeholders in this business will certainly be benefited. We will be obviously be able to give a lot of product quality and variety. The impact that we'll be having on the micro level in the business is very much well fathomed. We will be having a very accurate inventory forecasting. Our customer satisfaction index will increase, which will obviously reduce the customer attrition. Then we'll be also reducing the customer risk in terms of the product complaints and stuff. Cross selling we can do, and we, as of now, we have never intended to do it because it is automatically happening. We know people who are coming only to buy lobster, then they just get to see the fresh quality of Bhetki or the tiger prawns, and then they buy something else. Obviously, we will be increasing the customer acquisition through the expanded footprints, and obviously a product recommendation will obviously flow out in the market. So these are the larger impact areas, both in the micro and the macro level. We have followed the checklist compliances. So we are already FSSAI certified company. So we actually have FSSAI license for our supply chain as well as for the store end. So basically, we maintain this food safety for both in terms of procurement as well as for the sale. We operate in a proper trade license manner under the municipal guidelines, so that we don't end up polluting the environment while disposing of the leftovers. And we always try to give it to the municipal collectors, the collector of wastes. When that particular option is not available to us, we drive down to the waste collection facility and we drop it physically. As of now, for the last 8 months, initially when the market was normal, the second wave did not strike. There used to be a regular collector of this waste disposal, but as of now, for the last 3 months, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, for the last 3 months we are dropping it in their facilities.
Yes, exactly. We are dropping at their facilities, and what they are giving in return is basically like they are facilitating us with deduction with a what do you call that
exemption of taxes, some municipal charges exemption is given.
Last 3 months we were paying, previously we were paying 4,000 rupees. Now we are paying 2,500 rupees per month.
Yeah. And very recently, we have been recognized by the DPIIT, the Government of India, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. We are a recognized Startup India firm now. So that proves our credibility, as well as that gives the investor a lot of benefits to whoever coming to associate with us. Will be enjoying a exempted tax period for next 3 years. We'll be having obviously a fair market value exemption on the investments. And we will be having an access to a lot of government procurements where we'll be able to take part because of the eligibility conditions. Otherwise, we could not have. Those criteria will be exempted for us, and also be preferences given up till the project cost, where it is up to Indian rupees 50 crores. So there will get preferences. And obviously, the government is creating a 10,000 crore fund of funds for under the Atmanirbhar Bharat program. So we will be also be having an access to that particular fund, and obviously we'll be able to take part in the larger investment ecosystem going ahead. Well, these are a couple of representational images, actual representational images. These are our real product images for your understanding and visual representation. This is the quality of the product that we sell. These are absolutely not Photoshop. These has got no editing touch. These are just pure photos. So basically, there is this company called Taste of Vejwara. It's again a startup. We being a startup, we try to give startups an opportunity. So they have advertised this product on their social media handles. So you can follow their social media handles also to give a feedback, get a feedback on how the overall perception of Vijayawada market, micro market for Ocean Surprise. So this is basically a seafood platter we have. These are the crabs. We have octopus in our product portfolio. This is the tuna. The most celebrated hilsa we have. We have some beautiful lobsters in this thing. We have this mountain goat which comes from Lambasingi. It's a place on the northern hills of Andhra Pradesh. It's a very interesting story. For obviously for detailed discussion, we'll keep it some other day. We have the eels from the Bay of Bengal coast. We have the tiger prawns. We have this the chicken, which is again a very different kind of production. These are broiler feeds, but these are free range. So basically, there is a place called Nunna in Vijayawada. So there are farmers who has got their backyards, large backyards. So they keep this the broiler feeds open on the field. Because of the broiler feed, it has got a little on the higher side of the immunity, but they are not caged like this inhuman condition. They are suffocatingly caged. So those things doesn't happen. So this kind of gives a very different flavor. In fact, Mr. Sengupta, Ramit Sengupta, who has taken a couple of our products, can certify this on the call itself. So basically, yes, this is our product gallery, and we come to the end of the presentation, and we would be very glad to hear back from you your observation, questions, and would like to try to answer our best possible manner.
Thank you, Shubhabroto and Devabroto, for a wonderful, energetic presentation that set the tone of the day. Now, I would like to go through the questions that we have received in the messages box. While I read the questions, I will read both of you. I will request both of you to just open the message box so that we can be on the same page. So the first question is from Mr. Rohan Joshi. He is asking, how do you ensure quality, product selection, and fixed cost of setting up a hub? Over to you.
Mr. Joshi, thanks for putting down your observation, and I would like to address this. So we are currently working with some very hand-picked selective fishing trawler owners, aquaculture farmers, poultry owners, as well as goatry owners in the state of Andhra Pradesh and in West Bengal. And basically, we are trying to encourage all these farmers to adapt to our procurement standards once the AI app also launches, and that AI app itself will take care of the input quality. And certainly, as one of the founders of the company, I am planning to permanently relocate to the source point, that is in West Bengal, and I will be dedicating my 24/7 time into this particular quality assurance and quality observation when it comes to the first point in the supply chain. And regarding the fixed cost of setting up a hub, as I have mentioned in my presentation, that we have already spoken to some very trusted and reputed vendors with and we have signed in a couple of quotation instruments, which will obviously be gladly sharing with you. So these players would also play a role in terms of keeping our costs of the hub.
Thank you for the clarification. The next question is this model not something similar to Suguna model for chicken? I remember reading about Suguna model broke the channel distribution from 14 to 4. Currently in this distribution model, how many middlemen we have from inception to consumption?
Oh, my favorite question, sir. I would like to answer this.
It's both of our favorite questions, sir.
Yeah. So number of middlemen is 0, sir. And not really sure about the Suguna model for chicken, sir. Therefore, would abstain from commenting on that. However, yes, if they have attempted in reducing the channel from 14 to 4, hats off, great achievement. Well, Ocean Surprise has done from 4 to 0 then.
And also to add on to this, sir, I have mentioned it in my starting point, that neither we are buying from a middleman nor we are selling it to a middleman. So just to keep that market dynamics in a parallel, like demand and supply, so we have taken this step together that neither we will be selling it to any of the reseller, nor we will be buying it from any of the reseller. It will be direct to source. And if we say direct to source, we will definitely live up to that integrity of that saying that we will be a direct to source company.
So the next question is about your customer feedback received over last 7 months and rejections and wastage.
Sir, we would like to reiterate on this slide just to give you a fair idea of customer feedback has been really in our favor. God Almighty blessed us.
Can you zoom this slide a bit? Yes. Perfect. Please carry on.
Yes, this is one of our favorite. So this is one of our customers. She literally stopped having mutton in Vijayawada because of its texture. However, I believe because of our intervention, keeping it in a blasted mode and then thawing it and presenting it to the customer, she liked the texture and she found it tender and up to her taste. So yeah.
And about your rejections and wastage.
Dave, would you be giving the wastages number currently, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So if you say a goat, fully goat, when it is de-skinned and de-headed, so the approximate weight which comes down is in between 9.5 to 10 kgs. So as per the industry standard, like the fat and other offals wastage is something around 3.5 kgs. But after removing that, so it will be something around 7.5 kgs is the net weight of that goat. So once you get that goat, the approximate wastage is like 500 is the minimum, and maximum it goes up till 750 grams in 7.5 kgs.
We will quickly move on to the next question. So what is your customer acquisition cost? I think that we have already covered.
Yes, our customer acquisition cost is 54 rupees at present.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra, for questioning us. Is database available so easily for developing predictive analytics? I guess the AI setup would definitely need a lot of data before the model learns and start doing some meaningful analytics.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, as of now, to give you an understanding of how the data would work, so we are not trying to source any third-party data points. However, we'd like to build our own data points because of our awareness of corruption of the data. So currently we are in a stage where we are building our own data source. Obviously, I go with your point that it would require a large number of trial and error data sets to give the model, to basically teach the model and make it a running one. However, I believe, sir, every business would have an inception point. So this is ours. And certainly would like to assure you by saying that we will be looking out for alliances with large seafood industry associations, where I believe they will be having a certain amount of data sets which they already maintain. And we would like to also emphasize on the point that currently the Myelin Foundry is working on an algorithmic pattern to basically identify the data corruption. So basically to filter out the data from some third-party sources and try to feed it into that model. That will be my interim answer to you. And regarding meaningful analytics, sir, so basically currently in the city of Vijayawada, if I have a data set of over the last 8 months, that would be, since my window that you can see here, it is a 10 weeks predictive procurement. So I am not attempting a very far-flung predictive analytics window. I'm keeping it small because I know my limitation with that input data. So I believe in spite of the challenges, we will be getting, if I give you a number in terms of the confidence index, we will be scaling it on a scale of 95 to 98% level of confidence when it comes to the output numbers. Sir.
So is this market not already overheated with too many players?
Actually, sir, of all the D2C markets in the country right now, this particular market in the sub-segment of food and beverage is the lowest catered market. So as you can see from the competition landscape, sir, We are only we are right now talking about the 2% of the pie. 98% is open for up for grab, and out of this, only one company, which is Fresh to Home, is closest competitor to us in terms of technology and ideation. Obviously, Licious is a company who has raised a large amount of funding. However, their business philosophy and their execution methodology is very different from us. So I believe we are currently among the not even handful players. We are second or third player in the market to have thought like this, and we will probably become a handful of players who are attempting to disrupt the market at this scale and size using this kind of technological intervention, sir.
Okay, I have a
So-
few questions. So please let me know once the typed questions are done.
Yeah, we can take your questions. Rest of the things we will follow later. Please, Mr. Ambuj.
No, somebody has asked those questions. Please go ahead and complete them. Then I will
Okay.
ask.
We are having only 2-3 remaining. Then we will get back. So Shubhabroto, Mr. Rohan Joshi is asking. So you are not full time on the stealth mode only.
Mr. Joshi, once again, thanks for your question. Yes, Dev is right now full-time into this. Tanya is full-time into this, and Deboshmita is full-time into this. I am right now not full-time into this because of certain strategic play that I want to keep. Since I have a professional engagement with my current employer, so I want to exhaust the time period, which will be another like a 2 months window. But however, I can definitely negotiate. If you're talking about the firm's operational stealth mode, yes, we are all out in the Vijayawada city. Obviously, our initial capital requirement to get into full-scale operations was a bit restricted. That's the reason I decided to work this thing. But if you talk about my passion, yes, I spend 8 hours in my current employment, and then remaining 12 hours I spent on Ocean Surprise every single day. Not a single day I've stopped.
No, he normally, I would not say as a brother, but he normally like helps us with the various operational hazards, like we address every day. Where exactly, like every day we have a meeting at around 9:30 with our advisor, our dad, and we all come online and we discuss the day-to-day operations, how we are going, what is the next step ahead, what will be the current next week's forecast, and how we are going to address that. So we are always on the toes on this thing. But yes, as because my brother has got some commitment, definitely I don't want to like disturb him. But another 45 to 60 days after that, he is full time into the company.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So you have a separate IT exemption too, apart from the Startup India certificate?
No, as of now, we have just got the Startup India certification.
Okay, so
So
thanks
what
for
are-
that. So what really happens is I'll just thanks for all answering some of these questions. Okay, so in case of IT exemptions, you are not eligible for any IT exemptions unless you have the separate IT exemption certificate. So you had that in the slide that you are eligible for that, which will be the case only once you get that IT exemption certificate.
Okay, sir. As I mean, all right, we take it. Sir. We'll follow up with the Startup India, and we'll certainly follow the compliance to obtain it. However, in the mail that was written to us from the government of the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, DPIIT, it says that being a recognized this thing, a startup with the Startup India. It makes us eligible for the IT exemption. Having understood that, we would certainly obtain this exemption certificate, sir. We'll obtain it, sir, at the earliest.
Sure, it only makes sense when you are making profits,
Certainly, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I think my last question, just before you, and thanks, Ambuj, for coming in. I think and I appreciate your patience. So I think my last question from my end was on the Silver Blade Foods Private Limited. You mentioned, you are one of the units of that. So is that company having any other units as well?
As of now, sir, we are just having this brand Ocean Surprise under Silver Blade Foods. obviously we would see the the market dynamics going ahead, and we keep all the possibilities open to add up other brands which would probably be into vegan. We see a lot of plant-based meat opportunities that is coming up. We are closely following the market, and we are keeping very open mind when it comes to adding up new items into our portfolio, sir, in terms of the company's level.
Okay, thanks. I think I'll be in the queue. I'll ask Ambush to go ahead with his questions, and maybe I'll come back. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Please, Mr. Ambuj, please.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Joshi. Or I am happy calling you Rohan. But if you call me Mr. Ambuj, I'll have to call you Mr.
Yeah,
Rohan.
actually, my name is Gaurav. I have just logged in through my son's email ID. Ambush, yeah.
Okay. So hi, Gaurav.
Hi,
Thank
yeah.
you. And guys, very nicely done and thought up business plan and presentations. There are just a few queries which somehow, my bad, maybe I couldn't, get a hang of it. So ultimately, question one: What will be one single line description of your company? Are you a AI enabled tech company? Are you into logistics? Are you providing food to customer? What is that one line description of your company which you envisage?
A seafood, fish, meat and meat products company operating in a farm to fork model, or origin to consumption model.
Okay, if that is the case, one risk which I foresee is that you are not into the fishing business, right? You're procuring from the fishermen directly at the market.
Right, sir.
Have you seen how that market operates?
Yes, sir. Sir, we have, sir, when I address the word market, sir, so we are basically procuring directly from the fishing trawlers. So basically how it operates, just to answer your question, next question as well. So in Digha, West Bengal, from our understanding what we have seen, so there is one guy who basically owns 50 to 60 trawlers. So every trawler has got a capacity, let's say a one ton capacity every time they go into the high sea and they come back. All right, sir. So this guy, he owns 40 trawlers, a fleet of trawlers. So we directly buy from the person who owns this fleet of trawlers. So basically, the production that comes straight from the sea, and then we transfer it into our the cold storage, and from there we are we'll be following this hub and spoke model which you have discussed into our stores, sir.
Okay, so one question on that is, are you aware? I'm aware of what happens in the Mumbai markets. These the two major fishing. It's called Koliwada here. So the
Koliwada, yes, sir.
The Sassoon docks and the Juhu market side. See, what happens is when a trawler comes in, right? A trawler is out for 10, 12, 14, 15 days.
So.
Right. So once they catch the fish, it's kept in the same ice and formaldehyde or whatever combination and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So.
Which was probably a bit different from what was being told about in the beginning by Dave. Second, once the catch comes, first is the set of exporters who pick and choose, and they are the biggies of the market who control the market. They determine the price. So when a fisherman has caught, he has no clue on the price. It's
Right.
the biggie who decide the price, and they, of course, they have those storages and transport and logistics. And the first 50-60% of the good catch goes there. It's after that it's their regular hotels and others who pick up, and anybody else comes at third if you go to the dock to buy. If you go to the fish market to buy, of course, what you get is even more filtered down.
Right, sir.
So how are you planning to look at that part? My questions are more on execution. That's one, and second is some on numbers, which we'll do later.
Right, sir. Sir, in terms of this first point, procurement, sir. So we are right as of now. Our current business model is so basically the trawler one. So if I can correlate with the Bombay market to the one that is in Digha, West Bengal, sir. So basically the trawler guy himself is the biggie. So who kind of monopolies the entire catch, the coastline catch. So basically for us it is purely on an auction basis. So basically we get to choose and also put a price tag on that particular the portfolio that we have chosen, and then based on that whatever the price that will be negotiated at the last will be given to us.
Okay.
So sir, I just want to add on one point. So unlike the Bombay market, the way it works out in Calcutta, in the West Bengal or Orissa market is a bit different. Why I would say it a bit different, like the biggies who owns or export the fish, they get it from we call it like the aroddars, right? So
The wholesalers, the Adatiyas.
yeah, so
Okay.
they purchase those things in Calcutta. So Calcutta has got almost like 7 to 8 of that kind of facilities. So they buy from those trawlers, right? Then it comes to that Aratiyas. From Aratiyas, it goes to one part. It goes to the exporters, the best qualities of them, and the second part which goes to the down the line segment, the middlemans. So then again, there are 4 or 5 types of aratiyas, then local, district, then areas. So it goes down, and lastly, the fisherman who sells the fishes in the local market. So our point is basically in between the aratiyas and the fishing trawler. The fishing trawler itself is the big guy. So because we are speaking with those who have got like the fishing trawler person who have got a capacities of 2-3 tons as well as the capacity of like 500 400 kgs of stock. So we are getting those fresh stocks because as we are in a mode, in a very basic mode, so we cannot afford to buy the whole trawlers now. But we have already had an advanced stock that once we scale up, we can have got that opportunity to buy the whole stock from.
Right. Sir, I would just like highlight one very interesting number in trivia. I think, sir, since Bombay, the city of Bombay, from where the entire trading of this seafood happens, so basically it is falling bang on the western coast line itself, sir. The city lies on the coast itself. However, in case of Kolkata, the Digha, the coastline that we are continuously referring to, it is almost at a distance of 200 kilometers from the Kolkata city, sir. So maybe, I mean, I'm just making a very wild assumption. It just hit my mind. Maybe because of that reason, there are the Aratiyas are basically, I mean, are level down in the value chain compared to that of basically the biggies which you are referring to, are down in the level chain compared to those on the one in the Bombays. I believe. I'm just assuming, sir.
So it's called the agent in Bombay, and the agent now, a lot of large agents have become exporters, and exporters have done a backward integration and have become agents. So basically, it's the same ecosystem. Whether you're talking, vegetables or fruits or grains in Punjab, or whether it is fish in any of these places. Okay,
Right,
my
sir.
second question. There are so okay. So a disclaimer: I'm not a fish eater. But what I have seen is that people have very specific tastes for their regional fish. So there's a very strong regional preference. Now, if you're planning to sell in Delhi and Mumbai market, what kind of diaspora are you targeting? Are you targeting just the diaspora who is accustomed to the East Coast fish? Or rather, I am told that the kind of fish you get towards Chennai is different from what you'll get in Vijayawada, is very different from what you'll get in Kal and Odisha. Same, the west coast, Mumbai is different from what will happen on the Konkan coast further, which is different from the Malabar coast in Kerala.
So basically, sir, I would take you to this particular slide where we are talking about this.
Just talk about it. I have the slide. I did go through it. Just still.
So basically, yes, a large part of our the overall stock inventory will always ultimately come from the eastern coast. However, sir, if you talk about the diaspora targets, I believe, sir, the Delhi NCR is a pretty cosmo diaspora. We will be having a large chunk of inventory coming from the eastern coast as well as from the pro south coasts as well. So certainly, if I talk about a particular diaspora target, I would say I would be very agnostic to that. I would be dependent on my data input, that how my product is moving, and based on that I'll be planning my stock inventory fulfillment. If that answers your question, sir.
Okay, so today does that not happen? I thought today also I have seen वो railways में वो जाते हैं, Mumbai local train में तो anyways जाता है, but I believe intercity में भी this stuff is sent through the trains. The fish is sent from east coast to west coast and vice versa.
Sir, जाते तो हैं, मतलब I mean the catch travels. However, basically, see, now the point is currently the consumption point, like I stayed in Gurgaon for almost 3 years. So there are like 2-3 pockets. One is the Sikandarpur, one is the Gazipur Mandi, and then basically Gazipur is the node for the entire unorganized wet shop market in the entire North NCR region. So Gazipur mein basically this trains from and since Delhi is the national capital, so lot of trains come from south and then Bombay and Bangalore. So they have this entire thermocol boxes coming in and getting dispatched to the Gazipur mandi. From there, based on the sale requirements, like Sikandarpur in Gurgaon. So it is one of the, it is a chota mandi. It is like a medium size, mid size mandi. All right. So around 50-60 wet shop owners operate out from there. So now since Gurgaon has got a lot of Cosmo IT crowd, consulting crowd working out from there, so they might be cherry picking on those which comes from Bangalore or Cochin or maybe Tamil Nadu. But if you talk about if you just move from Gurgaon towards Delhi, where is more of a Bengali diaspora, the CR Park market, from Gazipur mandi they will mostly pick those sweetwater fish, which is basically rohu katla, and from the saltwater variety this will be pomfret or vetki or something like that. But maybe if you in Gurgaon, if your luck is good, you might find Karimin, the Kerala Karimin, sir.
Sweet in the saltwater, there will be couple of other varieties like the singaras and all those stuff. Tuna. So these are something which is being moved. Like
mostly, just to also give you an heads up on this. Mostly the prawns that are available now that we know the market, mostly the prawns that are available in the Delhi NCR market, sir, those are actually not even, forget about caught in India, they are not even Indian varieties. There is a variety called Vanamai. It is basically the breed, the seeds that come from Philippines and Philippines and Vietnam. Right. So then this I was posted there, sir, in Machilipatnam. Massive, large 300-400 acre size aquaculture farms. They are purchasing this Vanami seeds, which comes to Kakinada. From Kakinada, they breed in their farms and they freeze it in their site itself in a frozen facility, and they packet it and send it back to the consumption hubs by selling that prawns. But like those are not even Indian prawns. Actually.
Yeah, but these exactly look like tiger prawns, but you will not get anywhere near to the taste of the tiger prawns.
Yeah.
Okay. So how will you maintain your minus 18 degree kind of supply chain then?
Sir,
so apparently,
yeah. So as I told you, like the process of blasting. So the blasting is.
I got the blasting process. So that's a good idea. I'm aware of some other people who do blasting for food products. Right. So that part is there, fine. So we do blasting. But then how do you ensure the logistics of transportation?
Sir, this will be temperature control logistics, which we are like speaking with. Right now, we are transporting it either by flight or by train as per the convenience. But going ahead, we have got like Blue Dirt is a company who does cold logistics, and Abelcold is one such company who does cold. Right. So Abelcold is mostly into the roadways and Blue Dirt mostly into the airways. So if it is nearby, Abelcold will be our logistic partner, and if it's far off places where the time is more, then the Blue Dirt will come into place. So we will have both those channels open for our supply chain.
And sir, in terms of the hardware, there is this world famous company called Symphony, those AC makers. So Symphony has got a tamper-proof temperature control boxer, which can manage a temperature up till minus 60 degrees, sir. So those are designed as per the ISO specification of 9001, 22,000, sir. So we have also taken a couple of quotes from them. So basically, they have certain varieties. So those, it's called fiber something, FRP. So F stands for fiber. So those FRP tamper-proof temperature control boxes are our hardware, sir. Just to answer your question on the hardware side of it.
So once you seal that box, you have to cut it open. So there is no point like you can open it and refix it.
Yeah.
So either you have to cut it open or you have to destroy that boxes. So you cannot refix that boxes. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Sure. So I am assuming you have incorporated all these costs in your business model.
Right, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then your cost seems to be a number we need to seriously look at. Reason being, while yes, we were assuming that all the guys are really, making and skimming over the market. The fact is there are some massive distribution costs. This is a perishable product, and I'm told a fish, once it is thawed, has to be, kept at a particular temperature and so on and so forth. So, and the shelf life is for a avid fish eater, they can tell whether it's something which is 5 hours or 8 hours.
Sir, blasted. Actually, just to let you know, blasted stays intact in that same texture. The meat fiber, basically the amino acid chains, those stay intact for almost 36 months, sir.
That is if you maintain the temperature. I'm talking.
Yes,
once
yes,
it is,
certainly. If you maintain, basically, sir,
Minus
right now,
50, minus 30 and minus 18. So that is the temperature in the supply chain. So minus 50 is basically the blasting temperature. Minus 30 will be minus 30, 35 will be your storing temperature. And your retail temperature has to be in between minus 20, minus 18 to minus 25. So currently at our Vijayawada stores, we are maintaining a minus 31.2 degree. Exactly, I can say, because I am into day in, day out operations. So we are maintaining 31.2 degree temperature minus at the Vijayawada stores freezers.
okay, great. Fine. I think I'll hold my questions for now. I would want to probably have a little more information, but that would be long set. Mr. Gaurav, you had a few queries.
Yeah. So I think, thanks, Ambuja. So I think probably also it will be helpful, how much have you been, how much you have invested till date, and what type of dilution you're looking at, just for our understanding.
Shubho, can you please answer that one?
yeah, certainly. Sir, as of now, total, both in terms of our current investments, we have put in total of close to 12 lakhs, sir, we have already put in.
Okay.
This includes our capex, initial setup costs, and also our inventory that we are currently running, and the recurring inventory which is ongoing, obviously. And sir, we are looking to raise. Actually, sir, I will be a bit descriptive when we are talking about this the raising part of it. So we estimated a cost of raising a pre-series of 1 crore by diluting around obviously we look for, we are very open to discussion, but our initial estimation was in between 15, our range was in between 15 to 20% of the equity, sir.
Okay. And so I think currently you already have somebody invested in, right?
Basically, as in if you talk about it, that was the first the initial capital. It was from the promoter side itself, sir.
So there are 4 promoters, as I understand correctly, which and you have invested about 12 lakhs so far. Then, correct?
Right, sir.
And then you had, one gentleman who introduced this to the group, right? Into the startup group. He also has invested in this.
Yes, sir.
How much has he invested? And what percentage, you have diluted so far?
Sir, as of now, the investment of the gentleman is around 2 lakhs, sir.
2 lakhs. Okay. And what dilution?
Sir, the dilution has happened. We have given a stake of, I think we have diluted around 10. I will give you the exact number from
10%.
The 10% of the company, sir.
Okay. And in terms of the stealth mode, only 4 of you are there, right? And in the company, only one Subrata is on the stealth mode.
Currently, sir, yes.
Okay. And so I think probably it will also be helpful to understand the financial models, in terms of the next 1 year, what type of, cost you are going to incur, the full-blown one, as Ambuj mentioned.
Right, sir.
And what type of salaries you expect to put in, and also in terms of hiring, which will be involved, right, in some of these hub and spoke model.
Right.
And then we can think about, just we can have a look at that as well, right?
I will, sir. I will certainly share the full-blown model, sir.
Yeah. So and in terms of any other advisors, all these people who are there currently, who are helping you out, and correct. And in terms of, and the last point, is that the other units, what you had told. So I think probably those units are not going to come immediately, right? It's just going to be one unit, at least for the next till this unit really starts making a decent profit, or it starts.
Certainly. Getting a foot into the market. The larger pan India market. It will take some amount of time, and having understood, we are an avid meat eaters and fish eaters, sir. Having understood that market psychology and sentiment, although this plant-based meat markets and all these things are making a lot of hue and cry, but I think it still has time to come of the age.
Okay. So, and one point, which I just want to get a clarity on, you talked about, all this blasting technology which is there in the catch, correct, which happens about maybe in the outskirts. Sorry about this, there's the church bell which is going, in the proximity of my house.
Not a
So,
problem.
okay. So, and you talked about, when to ensure that the produce is kept fresh, the fresh and all that.
Sir.
You need to blast this at the point of when you catch that particular one, right? So
Right.
currently you don't have any trawlers, you are only sourcing that material. So how are you ensuring that this particular thing is being taken care of by whoever, the fishermen or the big guys who are procuring?
Okay. So I will answer that one, sir. We have got employer out there in Calcutta at our sourcing point. Right. So every time our sourcing comes in, right now, as we have got a very small storage in Calcutta, which is supporting only the Vijayawada market. So what happens is like he is directly going there at the time of procurement, right? So from the small trawler, and we have outsourced the blasting technology. So there is one vendor who does the blasting technology at Diga itself, and then he gets it packed directly from Diga, and as per our requirement, he sends that one to Vijayawada, and rest of the product goes to the storage. So all the procedures is being filmed and noted down, so that there is no what you call abuse in the temperature happens at any point of time, because these thermocol boxes, they are tight-lip packed with dry ice before getting it dispatched, and it takes like 12 hours from Calcutta by train, and 4.5 hours to 6 hours in flight.
So it doesn't happen on sea then?
Sorry?
It does not happen on sea, right? So
No.
whatever the catch is there, it will still stored. It will take the same amount of time to come to Diga, where this technology, that blasting
No.
will take place.
Yes.
And okay.
So basically, the thing is that, sir, these are the small trawlers. They don't stay in the sea for 2-3 days. They stays for a couple of hours. So like they come back on the day in day out basis.
But still, some hours would have elapsed, before the
Yes. So
the
6
catch.
hours. 6 hours is the breathing time which a fish like before the rigor mortis starts. So 6 hours is the breathing time. You can give it to any fish product which is coming from the sea, as because this is a salt water. So the rigor mortis takes a lot of time to start off. So we have got a 6 hours breathing time.
Okay, but before that, you mentioned sometime, I think it was a 1 hour window, before the water starts coming out, if I
Yes.
heard it. Okay, so then what is the difference between 1 and 6?
So basically 1 hour is for the sweetwater fish and 6 hours is for the saltwater fish.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gaurav. Some really good questions, and good you asked the same one. You could be really more articulate. I wouldn't have been so precise. But thanks for that. So I think, guys, it's way past what we had budgeted. But anyways, we would want to look at some of your assumptions and costing sheets before talking further, because some of the numbers, at least, are they need to be looked at more in greater detail. So please, remove the noise about the AI and machine learning and all that. That's not what we are looking at. It's not happening for a long time, because we need those data points which today don't exist. We would be more keen on what are the operationalization and execution numbers you have had. How do you plan to take those numbers forward? And of course, your USP of the freshness and so on.
Right.
So if you can do some work on that and share, that would be definitely worth taking a look at.
We will.
And I
Sir.
would also suggest, please do a deep dive on the other competitors. I think there is far more to what they do than probably what was communicated.
All right, sir.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I think we'll look forward to getting the model. Yeah.
Yes,
And thanks a lot, Ambuj.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.